Welcome back, friends. I really just want to talk about something that came through for me in this channeled session that I was doing this morning about self-love as a form of giving love. And it was a really wild concept to try to articulate clearly. But what was really coming through here was this message and this idea about the way that we love ourselves, the way that we take care of ourselves is reflected in the way that we receive love as well, and the way that we give love as well. And it really had me thinking and reflecting on this, but what kept coming through was that the more you love yourself, the more you love another. And then I thought, well, is this kind of like this cliche quote that we see floating around, which is very true, by the way, but sometimes I think these trendy quotes that we see, they lose their sustenance because we see them everywhere. They get put on all these different colored pretty memes. They end up posted on Instagram and shared in stories and cover photos and all the things. And next thing you know, it like that frequency kind of loses its juice, we'll say. But it's that you cannot pour from an empty cup. And of course, right? So I'm sitting there thinking, is that what this is really about? Am I really channeling a whole message about not being able to pour from an empty cup? And what I received was a little bit of yes, a little bit of no. So what I was feeling into with this, and what I was really actually getting a lot of visualization, which was interesting because I'm not usually a visual channeler. I tend to just have these downloads, these knowings drop in that I come here and I transmit through my voice or writing. What I was seeing is a person really enveloping themselves in self-love. And I don't mean self-love like we most think of. Self-love in the idea of truly loving, cherishing, honoring, and nurturing ourselves. When I think about this, I think about a person who is not only honoring their standards and their boundaries, but also really kind of cleaning up their life. I keep getting this, like, I'm going to be honest, I'm trying to soften this a bit, and Spirit is just like, you got to give it how I'm giving it to you. So for whoever this is for, however this message lands, it's someone who needs to hear this a little bit more direct than my human wants to really give it, right? Because sometimes when we're talking about self-love, most want to receive that in a soft, pretty packaged way. And the reality of that is that sometimes self-love is that tough love that we've got to give ourselves, that kind of like slap in the face, that kick in the butt, right? That we need to receive. And that's kind of the energy, the vibe of this message that's coming through here is like cleaning up your act, cleaning up your life. And let me give the baseline of what I'm receiving. When you are taking care of yourself, it is not just for you. It is also for those that you love. It's for those around you. As a mom, I really could feel into the depths and the real, again, that sustenance of this meaning, where for a long time in the old paradigm, in the old kind of patriarchal conditioning, women wore these like badges of honor for being burnt out, for being in hustle mode all the time. And even this idea of women's empowerment almost became a little damaging, right? Because it forced women into the masculine. And I want to say that forced them into the masculine without really harmonizing with the feminine, right? Because we all have both feminine and masculine energies. Women, it's okay for women to have masculine energy. That doesn't make us bad or wrong. That is an energetics that is infused into us when we come here. What we tend to see happen, though, are these women kind of forced into this hustle mentality, this hustle role. And we see these women and mothers wearing these badges of honor because they overgave, overstayed, in fact, poured from an empty cup. It was like, oh, I celebrate you because you learned how to pour from an empty cup. And something about that always, I'm just going to say it like it is, it kind of gave me the ick. Like the women who were constantly like, ugh, I'm just so burnt out. Ugh, I just do. And not in the sense of genuinely sharing from the heart that they're burnt out. Again, these women that were almost wearing it as a badge of honor. Like, look at me because I do it all. Look at me because I've gone a whole year and I've never had a massage. I've never gotten my hair done. I don't wear designer clothes. I don't buy designer bags. I don't do these. And they start wearing it as a badge of honor that they don't do things that make them feel loved, that make them feel beautiful, that make them feel pretty, that make them feel worthy or luxurious. The divine feminine is fucking luxurious, okay? She is adorned in roses and gold. Okay, when you think back to even like Mary Magdalene and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and this divine feminine work, I mean, these goddesses are dripping in gold and luxury. All the way back to Egyptian times. So I'm going to digress from that and bring it back in here a minute. But what I'm trying to get across here is that women have been conditioned to believe that our worth, that our ability to be loved is earned based on the amount of effort we put in, based on how many things on our to-do list get checked off. And if I burn myself out and hustle myself to depletion, if I completely live in a dysregulated state, if I don't take care of myself, now I get the badge of honor. And I would see women of influence and women in power even doing this, talking about how little they cared for themselves and how little time they had to do anything. And again, I want to really emphasize here and really reiterate, I am not speaking to the woman who is genuinely sharing this from her heart, like a cry for help. I'm not speaking to the woman who has depleted herself and is on her healing journey. I'm speaking to the woman that carries this as a badge of honor, teaches it, and yet somehow places herself on this pedestal still because of this belief, this outdated paradigm. What I was starting to feel into with this as a mother is how, and as mothers, we're never going to be perfect. Of course, we do all things through love. We do the best we can with what we know and have in the moment. But years ago, and those of you who know me now probably, every time I tell the story to someone who doesn't know, they're like, what? Like they can't even imagine it now. But years ago, actually, it was, I think 2012 is when I quit smoking cigarettes. From the time I was probably 16, not while I was pregnant, not when my kids were really small, but off and on through those years, actually younger than 16, I smoked cigarettes. I drank alcohol. I hung out, I stayed up all night with very little sleep, right? I was the 90s baby. Like back then, there was no holistic living. There was no wellness community. None of this was taught, okay? What was available was like toxic products, Aquanet hairspray, Bath and Body Works, right? All the hormone disruptors, toxic chemicals, all in our lives. And there's no shame in that because it's where we were. It's the era we grew up in. I don't shame anybody for that. I don't shame myself for that. I did for a little while, but I don't anymore. Yet it's one of those things where it's like the more you know. It's like the more you know. When I started learning that these things were toxic, when I started learning about hormone disruptors, when I started learning about how truly pouring into our physical health was a direct reflection on our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. And then I started learning about frequency, raising your vibrational frequency, vibrating on a higher vibration. When I started to learn about all of these things, it wasn't so much just for myself that inspired me to learn about this, to clean up my act, to clean up my life. And for a little while there, I mean, even with the foods that we eat, I'll have to share more in depth about this in another episode, but I will just say that for a temporary moment in time, I feel that even my fear of our food system in this country almost created somewhat of like an eating disorder for me. And I wouldn't even say an eating disorder in the sense that we know it. It was almost a subconscious one, or like a subconscious eating disorder. I went into this 24-hour fast every single day because it was like, how can I really grab a quick breakfast? What's actually quick that's not toxic, that's not preservatives, that's not overly processed, that's not. So I just didn't eat. And then lunch came around and it was like, well, I only really have time for a quick drive-through and I don't want to eat drive-through food and I don't know. So I'm just not going to eat lunch. And next thing you know, it was dinner time and I'm like, well, okay, I am going to make a meat. I'm going to make a vegetable. I'm going to make this. Okay, we're having carrots. Oh, but not those carrots. Those carrots are bleached. You got to get these carrots. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just not eating carrots. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, vegetables. But now they need to be organic because of pesticides. And you don't even, now the organic labels could even be bought. So fuck it. I'm not eating vegetables, right? So at this point, you start going down this rabbit hole and you almost go into this fear. So I had to do a lot of inner work around this, not just food, but again, hormone and endocrine disruptors in our products, deciding little things along the way, getting rid of plastic in our home and switching over to glass, not cooking on non-stick pots and pans anymore and the plastic spatulas and spoons, getting rid of all of that, converting all of my cookware over to stainless steel. All of my storage over to glass. No longer buying water bottles, like bottled water to drink, right? We would purchase like glass water bottles or the stainless steel ones that are legit stainless steel. And we filled filtered water in that, right? Because there was a point in time that I had fear of water. But I started doing all of these things. And I realized as I was doing this inner work and really learning to navigate this with this information and trying to go from my 90s era where none of this mattered into a holistic lifestyle, a non-toxic lifestyle, I almost went from like 0 to 100. And I had to get really real with myself and understand that there's milestones. You can do this in increments. You can do this in baby steps along the way. And again, the more you know. So as I would learn, I would clean up that one thing. And then it became our body soaps and our hand soaps and our toothpaste and this and that. And I started getting really comfortable with the foods and where we shop. And it was, again, little by little by little. But I realized that in doing this and really cleaning up my home, cleaning up my body, cleaning up my habits and my routines was not just for me. There was this deep-rooted love for my children, for my husband, for my community and my clients that I also did this for. When I think about my parents or my partner, I think about, I wish that they would also do the same because I want them to be around for longer. I want them to honor and cherish and nurture and love their own physical vessels, their own mind, their own heart, their own spirituality, so that they too can become the best possible version of themselves. So kind of seeing this from both ends of this coin, as the mother and as the daughter, as the wife, right? How I love my husband through taking care of myself, and how I desire him to love me through taking care of himself. And you'll see that a lot, right? With it, whether you're watching it on TV, seeing it in, couples, you see how they fiercely care for each other. It's like you'll see when like a husband has a heart attack at an older age, and all of a sudden the wife is like, you cannot have fried food, you cannot have this, right? And she goes into overdrive about this. But truthfully, it's because of that fear. She just doesn't want to lose him. She wants him to live a fulfilled, happy, healthy life. So when we make this decision to, and I'm really going in on the health here, but truthfully, when we make these decisions to pour into our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual hygiene, our total wellness, mind, body, and soul, it is not just for ourselves. But the more that we pour this love into ourselves and into our being, that love for ourselves is felt in those who love us. So when we look at that as the opposite side of this, when we look at the people that we love and what we desire them to do for themselves, as a mom of a 23-year-old young girl and an 18-year-old young man, I should say young lady, if she ever heard this, she'd be like, girl, young woman and young man, I see them go through these things in life. And I wish, of course, as moms, we wish that we could learn from our mistakes. Do as I say, we want them to learn from the mistakes that we made, from the challenges that we face. We don't want them to repeat our mistakes. We don't want them to, we try to protect them fiercely because we love them. But it isn't just for them, it's also for us. We don't want to witness the people that we love hurting in any way, mind, body, or soul. So when you think of what we desire for those that we love, how much we wish and pray that they would take the absolute best care of themselves, for them and for us, remember that when it comes to how you love yourself. I don't typically do love readings, but this was a really loud and clear message that was coming through right now. And maybe it's all of this kind of Venus energy that's happening right now up in the cosmos. Venus has been very active the last few months here. She's been playing a big role. And Venus is that planet of love, of beauty, of intimacy, of relationships. And maybe that's where this is coming from. But I was getting this very clear message around love and how whatever type of love that you are desiring to receive and whatever type of love that you desire to give, to start that, to begin with how you love yourself. We know that, we teach others how to treat us based on how we treat ourselves. If we are not respecting ourselves and holding our own standards and boundaries, we cannot expect anyone else to. You can set all the standards and boundaries that you wish, but if you are not honoring them, nobody else is going to either. Whether they don't even realize that you have that standard or boundary because they've never watched you hold it, or because they've crossed that line numerous times and you've never held them accountable to it. When it comes to your own emotional well-being, I know for me and even within my marriage, I met my husband when I was 15 years old in high school. I am 40, he is currently 43. As you can imagine, we've had to grow through a lot together, becoming ourselves, growing as parents, growing as individuals, growing as business owners. There have been a lot of periods over the past couple of decades that I'm like, I do not like who you're being, and I'm sure that he's felt the same about me. One thing that was a tough pill for me to swallow was realizing that a lot of the changes that occurred in our marriage, the healing, the improvements, whether it was something that I wanted to heal or improve in him, started within me. So, before I've done this healing work, I carried a lot of anger. I was an angry, raging teenager. I was angry in my 20s. I've always had this softness and this love and, this compassion for other people. And at the same time, I was always very guarded. I always was ready to defend myself and protect myself at all costs. I lived in survival mode for a majority of my life. So in that version of myself, a disagreement was not just a disagreement. A difference of opinion was not just a difference of opinion. It would turn into a full-on argument in the grocery store over something. It would turn into a full-on argument in the living room over something because we were not emotionally regulated. Me learning how to emotionally and mentally regulate, and physically as well, regulate myself, repaired and healed my responses. And even if it didn't immediately emotionally regulate him, because I was no longer reactive and I was more of a grounded, responsive, it inspired him to want to do the same for himself, to learn a healthy form of communication for himself. So when things blow up now, we don't go into a screaming match at each other. I'll go for a walk. He'll go out back and start tinkering with tools, cut the grass, clean out his truck. I'll never forget the one time he was like scrubbing every ounce of dust and dirt on his tires and came back in and just apologized, right? It was like we learned how to kind of take a step back. We didn't just do this for ourselves, because I will say learning emotional intelligence and emotional regulation helped me a lot in my life. It helped me learn to stop taking things so personally in business, in relationships, in any aspect. It taught me how to not take anything so personally. And it also improved my marriage. It improved my relationship with my children. Because the work that I did and have poured into myself taught me how to also give love in a healthier way, to show love in a healthier way, to even understand what it means to love in a healthier way. Especially for those of us where that true, universal, unconditional, or a healthy kind of love was never modeled to us. And I would venture to guess that a lot of us in this generation can relate to that just because of the way the older generation was. A lot of us we're kind of on that cusp between the old paradigm and the new paradigm. We were raised in the old paradigm through the old patriarchal conditioning, broke the generational cycles and curses and trying to, implement the new into our children, but our children are going to be the full embodiment of this new paradigm, of this new way of life, this new era. We are the cycle breakers. We are the generational cycle and curse breakers. That means we've gone through the upbringing of the old paradigm and we're doing the raising of the next generation through the new paradigm. We had to walk that line. And the more that we do this healing work, this inner work, this pouring this love into ourselves at the deepest soul level possible, the better lovers we become. The more open we are to receive that same love. When we truly embody the frequency of love, it amplifies in all forms. We learn that we are here to be love, to give love and to be loved, and that we are worthy of all of this. I had a conversation with my daughter today, and it's really interesting because it's kind of coming full circle moment for me here, because I think joy and fun and pleasure is such a big part of this. She wanted to go on a trip, and it's just a quick weekend getaway, and she asked me, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. Do you think this is too much for 2 days in this area? And I said, I think it's a lot, and nobody can really tell you if it's too much. I'm using air quotes that you probably can't see. Too much, except for yourself. No one can tell you that except for you. And let me explain. If you were to say to me that I could go to Thailand, Greece, right? Mykonos. Heck, even I could go to the Gulf Coast of Florida for 3 days, 2 days for this amount of money. No brainer. It's a fuck yes for me. I'm all in. But to go there where you're planning on going, I'd be like, heck no. Way too much money for me. So what it comes down to is, what is the value of this? Is it worth it to you? What do you wish to gain from these 2-3 days? What do you wish to gain from that location? Does the value of that hold the value of the dollar? And because she is a very intuitive woman herself, I did tell her that if you're questioning it, you might already have your answer, but sit with it. And it's so interesting because I see this occur a lot in many different ways, through coaching, through healing, through body work, right? Like massage, Reiki, facials, things like that, taking care of our hair, our nails. It isn't about, like Botox and things like that. It isn't about if you're a person that thinks, oh, you should just love yourself. I don't do Botox. I don't do filler. Cool. That's cool for you. Some women do. I'm talking about really whatever it is that makes you feel loved and cared for and nurtured and tended to. So if for you that is Botox and filler, if for you that is getting regular haircuts, if it's lashes, if it's massage work, if it's facials, if it's buying luxury bed sheets or skincare, if it's hiring the coach and the mentor that's a little bit outside your comfort zone, a little bit beyond what you normally would spend. Everyone's fine spending $99 a week on a therapist. It's about $400 or $500 a month, depending where you are, where you go, and what your insurance will cover. But if you look at a coach or a spiritual healer or purchasing a program, would you be willing to pay the same? If you look at a massage package or a skincare package or what have you, a subscription to something that makes you feel cared for, does it hold the same value? And then for others, they're willing to pay thousands of dollars to travel to a retreat because they know the radical shift that occurs in this deep soul level at these retreats, but they'd never spend that same thousands of dollars just to go on a girls' trip. They wouldn't do that to pay for a course. It's all about what holds that value to you. And the trick, the challenge, how we truly step into this love frequency is honoring that within ourselves. Sometimes self-love is just wearing the cute clothes. It's getting the nails done. It's deciding I'm not going to get dressed today. Sometimes it's staying in pajamas until 4:00. Sometimes it is honoring a boundary. It doesn't always have to be these grandiose things like traveling to a retreat or getting weekly massages. It doesn't always have to be that, but that is important. pouring into your vessel, pouring into your heart, pouring into your mind, pouring into your spirit. These are forms of love of yourself. So whether you are loving your physical self or your soul self, the more love you pour into you, the more love you have available to give to others, the more love you are open and have the capacity to receive. So when I decided to quit smoking cigarettes, when I decided to remove all toxins from our house, when I said, honestly, I don't even fucking like drinking. I hate how I feel. I don't even enjoy it. Why am I bothering putting this shit into my body? I'd rather get my nails done. If I gotta find balance between the toxins I'm gonna put in my body, I'd rather get my nails done. I'd rather use a higher grade, shampoo. I'm literally pulling things out of the air. My shampoo is not toxic. But my point is, I decided to do all of these things, and it wasn't just for me. My children actually love that I don't drink. They didn't care when I did drink. I'm sure they had their thoughts on it, but they weren't judging me. But the fact that I don't, they love that about me. They admire that about me. They tell me all the time. Because they don't just see that I don't just drink. They see that I learned to love and honor and cherish my body, to be able to find joy and relax and have fun without a substance. This is not a judgment about anyone who does. This is just what I chose to do for me and how it has made my children feel more love for them by watching me love myself. Because I've poured into myself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, I've created this essence of being a safe space for my husband, for my children, for my community and my clients, because they see me doing this work. They see me loving myself. So for a long time, we always thought the highest frequency was love. It's believed now, there's like new studies in quantum physics and all of this work that we do, the highest frequency is actually believed to be authenticity. And that's because being your authentic self, it's impossible to not be in the frequency of love. You cannot be authentic without fully, deeply, unconditionally loving yourself first. And again, when you reach that state of that pure, unconditional, universal love of yourself, that there is no question about the way that you'll love yourself, the things that you will do for yourself, you radiate that energy outward and inward. So I hope that this message has landed for you. I feel that some people have been kind of on the fence about looking at something they've been wanting to do for themselves. It starts out small. It really does. And it can be small. There's also bigger things. I do not love the state I live in. That is no secret for anybody who knows me. I desire to live in Florida, and not just Florida, but it has to be along the Gulf. There's a lot of reasons to that. I have gone deep into my astrocartography. I've studied the lines that run through the Gulf, through that area of Florida. I know exactly why my soul feels alive in Florida, why I feel that's where I belong. I've done the inner work to say, okay, I can't be there yet. How can I find joy and love and happiness where I'm currently at? My time is up here. I'm complete in the state of Pennsylvania. Loving myself enough to know that I deserve to be in an environment, in a home, in an atmosphere, in my corner of the world that makes me feel most alive, has also inspired my daughter and my son to feel safe in exploring where they come alive. My son is going out of state for college. My daughter is probably visiting multiple states all throughout this summer. She is a Sagittarius, so an adventurous spirit is totally her thing. My husband is open to the idea because home is where we are with each other. Home is what you make it. We are, what is that saying? Like, you're not a tree, move. That is what I feel when it comes to our environment. And, I just had a call with a client today and we laughed because I am always one that says, like, this entire world is a simulation. None of this is real. I'm like, it's really not that serious. If I decide to uproot my whole entire life and move to Florida and I realize in that moment, I think I maybe made the biggest mistake of my life, I do not like it here, I'll come back. It's really not that serious. There will be logistics. There will be things to think through. There will be things to work out. Yes, there will be money that I'll have to consider. There will be people and time I have to consider, but it's really not that big of a deal. This is what life is about. Adventure, finding joy, finding love, finding happiness. And the more that we embody this frequency, the more that we place ourselves in environments that light us up, the more that we lean into beauty and pleasure and love and joy, the more that we receive it, the more that we give it. So whether it's something small like switching up your toothpaste to a non-toxic toothpaste, or something grand like uprooting your whole life and moving to a different state, do a little inventory about how much you are allowing yourself to be loved and to give love to yourself and to everyone around you. The extent to which we love ourselves is the extent to which we are able to give and to be loved in return. The most beautiful, potent, loving relationship you will ever have is the one that you have with yourself first. Now, I talk a lot about the identity experience, which was formerly known as Soul Shift. There is a smaller version of that experience, which is called Aligned, formerly called Soul Love. And Soul Love really is about taking your life beyond self-love, deep into the depths of the soul. And why this is so powerful is because when we love ourselves at this deep soul level, it's no longer a question of, am I worth a $50 haircut? Am I worth a $100 massage? It's not about the logistics. The logistics will always work themselves out. That is an entirely separate episode, but the logistics always work themselves out. It's a choice that we make. It's a choice that we make to see ourselves through the lens of love and to decide that we are worth it. That is the work that we do inside of Aligned, Soul Love. It is a journey deep into the depths of our being to rediscover ourselves through the essence of our soul, that divine part of ourselves that came here. We unlock your passion, your purpose, your creativity, your desires. Your manifestations start happening a heck of a lot faster because you start manifesting from your true desires. You start manifesting what you truly are here to receive, have, be, and do, and to create. So if you have any interest in that, check the caption of this episode here. You can find that information there. I hope that this landed for you. I would love to hear how this landed for you. Drop a comment, send me an email, reach out to me on socials, whatever feels good. I always love having these conversations. And stick around because there is a lot more to come. This new moon in Gemini last week really gave me this massive, I feel the energy kind of catapulted me forward. It accelerated me forward. Something happened. Something shifted. My channel is blown wide the F open right now. I am channeling downloads like you would not believe. My intuition is on peak performance. My channel is wide open. I am receiving messages with so much clarity. In a reading that I did last week, I actually channeled an entire 3-year business plan for someone in under an hour. It's wild. My private readings are getting bigger. My accuracy rate has always been 100%. I've never had somebody come back to me and say that their reading didn't make sense for them, that it didn't land for them. My accuracy in my readings has always been 100%. I'm well aware that eventually that's going to change. Somebody's going to come back and say that wasn't for me, but it hasn't happened yet. And the energy that I'm in right now, the state of my channel, the flow that I'm in, the flow state right now is wide open. So if you are feeling ready to do this work, I would even dare to say if you're not feeling ready to do this work, but you're curious, take a look. It does not do anything to you to look, to ask questions, and to discover whether or not this is an aligned pathway for you. I love you. I'm sending you so much love, so much gratitude. It is always an honor and a privilege to tap in, to connect, to share these messages with all of you. And I will talk to you next time. Take care.